The envelope sat beside my plate like a threat dressed in white. Leona, 27. Printed in all caps. No handwriting. No warmth. Just sterile precision like it came from a lawyer's desk. Not my father's. He didn't even look at me when I opened it. $100 a month, he said like he was reciting a weather report. Covers rent, utilities, and your share of household expenses. I blinked. There it was, an itemized bill. $900 rent, $200 utilities, $400 household contribution. My name was on every line, bold and centered. At the bottom, due on the 1st, late fees apply. Aspen, my younger sister, twirled her pasta beside me, freshly manicured fingers scrolling through TikToks. Not a flinch, not a glance. But Aspen doesn't. She's still finding her path. Mom cut in, voice syrupy sweet. You have 2 jobs, Leona. You're stable. It's time you contribute like an adult. I'm stable because I haven't had a day off in 6 months. Because I clip coupons and skip breakfast. Because I come home smelling like fryer grease and banking anxiety. But I nodded. Because what else was I going to do? I folded the invoice, slipped it into my pocket, and excused myself before the weight of it cracked something open inside me. What they didn't know, what I hadn't even realized yet, was that this bill wasn't the beginning of responsibility. It was the beginning of my exit plan. If you've ever felt like the dependable one was just code for "we'll take more from you," leave a comment, because this story is for us. I didn't cry that night. I sat on my bed, unfolded the invoice again, and looked at it like it might suddenly make sense. Like maybe I'd missed a joke. A line of fine print that said, "Just kidding, we love you." But no, all I saw were numbers. Cold, clinical, unforgiving. And the worst part? They acted like it was fair. Like it made sense to charge me rent in a house where my baby pictures still hung in the hallway. Like it was normal to type up a financial contract and drop it beside someone's spaghetti. Like I hadn't already been covering more than my share for years. Groceries. Gas. Aspen's Uber rides when she forgot her wallet. I checked my bank account that night. I had $312.48 to my name. That's after 2 jobs, 6 days a week, no vacations, no room to breathe. And Aspen? She spent the weekend posting Sephora hauls on Instagram and tagging me for the "thanks sis" credit. I confronted her on a Friday. She was wearing my old hoodie, sprawled across the couch like it was a throne. "Did you use my credit card again?" She didn't even blink. "You said I could." "That was once, for textbooks." "Well, you never changed the login." I waited. For an apology. For a blink of guilt. Got nothing. Just Mom, sighing in the background. "Leona, stop keeping score. Aspen's trying. You have a steady income." And that was the moment it clicked. They didn't see it as theft. They saw it as expected. Natural. I earn. She consumes. Balance in their eyes. That night, I started a spreadsheet. Tab 1. Rent receipts. Tab 2. Disputed charges. Tab 3. Aspen's purchases. Every line I typed felt like reclaiming oxygen. Then Ezra, coworker, teller, occasional lunch break friend, leaned over my divider a few days later. "You look like you're preparing for court." I looked up. "Maybe I am." He grinned, then showed me something on his screen. "Your parents refinanced last year. Their mortgage is 90 days delinquent." I stared at him. "But I've been paying." "They're not teaching you responsibility," he said. "They're using your paycheck to keep the lights on." I stared at my screen for a long time after he walked away. This wasn't a lesson, it was a leak. And I was the plug, keeping everything afloat while being told I was lucky to live rent-free. No wonder the house never felt like home. It was a transaction. And that's when I stopped feeling guilty and started taking notes. I didn't fight them. Not at first. I smiled, paid the invoice, nodded when Mom reminded me about real-world expectations. I clocked into the bank at 7:45 sharp, smiled at clients, balanced drawers to the cent, then ran across town to wait tables until midnight, all while pretending I wasn't unraveling. No one asked why I stopped eating dinner with them. No one noticed when I pulled Aspen's name from my streaming account or canceled the beauty box subscription that showed up with her name, charged to my card. They noticed the money, though, as long as it came on time. On a Tuesday lunch break, I opened a high-yield savings account. Not at my bank, Too visible. A credit union across town. Work email. New P.O. box. $1,000 transfer from my quarterly bonus. Small, but real, mine. Each night after that, I updated my spreadsheet. Rent paid. Groceries bought but never reimbursed. Subscriptions canceled. Aspen's Amazon charges flagged and logged. The tabs multiplied. Red for theft. Yellow for misuse. Green for mine. Every click was resistance. Quiet. Precise. Ezra caught me one evening cross-checking chargebacks with timestamps. You really are building a case. I looked up. Not for court, for clarity. He smiled. Same thing. Later that week, he slid his phone across the break room table. Foreclosed listing, 3-bedroom, east side, way under market. I raised an eyebrow. Ezra, I have $100 and an ulcer. He shrugged. Just look. I did. Hardwood floors. Real light. A tiny backyard. Not a mansion. But not a prison either. Something in my chest moved. I can't afford a house. Not today, but maybe sooner than you think. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from stress, but from curiosity. I searched. How to buy property under an LLC. How to protect real estate from family searches. Quiet ownership laws in state. By morning, I had a plan. By Thursday, I had a name. Vanquish Properties, LLC. Mrs. Vega, a client from the bank and semi-retired realtor, met me at a diner booth. She asked one question. What's this really about? I wrote one word on a napkin, exit. She didn't flinch. We'll file under a single-member shell. You own it, but your name stays off the paperwork. Ezra helped me prep the financials. Vega handled the forms. I signed. Quietly, legally, completely. Each night after that, I packed a little. Sweaters, notebooks, my sketch pads. Anything I didn't want left behind. I moved boxes to a storage unit over lunch breaks. No one noticed. Not even when the bookshelf disappeared. Aspen was too busy filming GRWMs. Mom assumed I was just working late. Dad only looked up if I was late on rent. I was disappearing, on purpose. One morning, I stood in the middle of my room. Walls still painted lavender. Trophies still on the shelves. Childhood stuffed animals still tucked in the corner like a relic. I looked around like someone inspecting a hotel room before checkout. Only difference? This time I was taking the receipts with me. I chose a Tuesday. Everyone would be out. Aspen at Pilates. Mom's book club. Dad's racquetball. Ezra picked me up under the excuse of a ride to work. We loaded the last boxes. My laptop, the toothbrush, my life. I left my key on the nightstand. On the kitchen table, I left a folded piece of paper. As of today, I'm moving out. Rent is no longer due. Internet and services under my name will be disconnected within 24 hours. Please forward any mail to the address on file with the bank. L. No emotions. No explanations. Just clarity. And for the first time in my life, I walked away without asking permission. They found me faster than I expected. 3 days, maybe 4 after I left. A plain envelope showed up at the house addressed to current resident. Inside, a formal letter. The mortgage had officially transferred to Vanquish Properties, LLC. Effective immediately. Mrs. Vega texted me a photo she took from her car. My mom stood at the mailbox, pale, holding the letter like it might bite her. My dad stood behind her, jaw tight, eyes locked on the page. Aspen was barefoot on the porch, arms crossed, sunglasses perched like a crown. By evening, they were at my door. I watched through the peephole. Dad in a stiff polo, Mom clutching her purse like a shield, Aspen trailing behind. I opened the door halfway. Didn't invite them in. Leona, Mom began, voice light like she was trying to walk it back before it even started. We got a letter from some company. Something about the mortgage. We think there's been a mistake. There hasn't, I said. Dad's eyes narrowed. You know anything about Vanquish Properties? I do. I said nothing else. Let the silence settle between us like dust. Mom cleared her throat. Sweetheart, Aspen's going to need a place to stay while we sort this out. Just temporarily. You've always been so responsible. I didn't smile. Didn't even blink. Garage couch, $1,500 a month, late fees apply. Aspen's mouth fell open. You're kidding. Dead serious, I said. You taught me well. Dad's face flushed. This isn't a joke. We're your family. I tilted my head. So were you, when you handed me an invoice and called it love. Mom's voice cracked. We didn't mean... I cut her off. I know exactly what you meant. And I closed the door. No yelling, no slamming. Just the silence of people realizing they'd finally run out of control. I stood in the hallway, hand on the knob, breath steady. Then walked to the table where my laptop waited. Folder. Mortgage documents. New file. Interaction log. First visit. They came back 2 days later. Didn't knock at first. Just lingered like ghosts. This time I let them in. 3 chairs already set. A manila envelope on the table. I sat first. Slid it toward them. Inside. 2 years of rent receipts. Grocery totals. Utility bills. Aspen's credit card charges. Late fee summaries. And on the final page, the deed. Mom's hands trembled as she flipped through it. Dad didn't speak until the very end. What is this? The house deed, I said. You're looking at the legal owner. He scanned the name, then again. This is real. Yes, it is. You bought the house? No, I said quietly. You taught me how to. I just paid attention. He sat back slowly, deflated. Like something in him collapsed inward. Mom reached across the table. Leona, the mortgage is under a legal entity, I said. If you want to renegotiate terms, use the email on the notice. No yelling. No guilt. No explanations. Just policy. I walked them to the door. Before Mom stepped out, I handed her the envelope. You'll need this, I said. It's everything you taught me. I didn't slam the door. That would have implied anger. But I did pause once it was closed. My hand still on the knob, heart strangely calm. The house was silent again. Not peaceful, but mine. I walked slowly back into the kitchen, sat down, and opened the spreadsheet. New tab. Final leverage used. And in cell A1 I typed. This time, I was the one setting the rules. I'd spent years making myself small so they could feel big. Now I took up space. Not just in square footage, but in truth. In ownership. In power. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. They didn't stop after that. First it was emails. Then voicemails. Then Aspen messaging me through burner Instagram accounts she'd made just to get past my blocks. Can you please talk to Mom? Why are you doing this to us? As if you never borrowed anything. The entitlement still bled through every word. I didn't answer. I just filed each message under a new folder. Escalations. Emotional manipulation. Then came the letter from a lawyer. A generic cease and desist template printed on cheap paper, accusing me of fraudulent acquisition, claiming I'd coerced them into signing away their rights. It made me laugh out loud. They hadn't signed anything. They had no idea what I'd done until it was already public record. I sent the letter to Mrs. Vega. She replied in under an hour. This won't hold. They're bluffing. But if they escalate, I know someone better. I forwarded it to Ezra too. He wrote back with a single line. You were too quiet for too long. They forgot you could fight. The next time they showed up at my place, it was just Aspen. She waited by my car after work. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged, hair in a messy bun that didn't quite scream helpless. It screamed curated chaos. I don't know what happened to you, she said as I unlocked my door. I didn't look at her. You happened. She stepped closer. This isn't you. You used to care. I did. I turned to face her. And I kept caring, while you kept taking. She blinked. It wasn't like that. I pulled out my phone, opened my spreadsheet, held it up. Every charge, every overdraft, every login she never asked permission for. You used my credit. You used my clothes. You used my silence. You're really going to make Mom and Dad pay full market rent? She asked. I paused, then answered. I'm going to give them something they gave me. A lesson. Her face fell. That's cruel. No. What's cruel is watching your child work 2 jobs and calling it responsibility while draining their account to keep the lights on. I got in the car, shut the door. She stood there stunned, like she couldn't believe I'd just walked away. But I had. And I kept walking. Because by then, the first payment had posted. $2,400 automatic transfer, no delays. From my parents' joint account to Vanquish Properties LLC. It felt like closing a circle and starting a new one. I sent them the formal receipt. Subject line, payment confirmed. No further communication required. But still, they showed up again. This time it was my father alone. Not at my door. At the bank. I spotted him through the glass before he entered. He looked smaller somehow. Like whatever authority he used to wear like cologne had evaporated. He stepped up to my window, cleared his throat. "Can I speak to the branch manager? She's at lunch." "I'll wait." I didn't offer him a seat. After 20 minutes, he gave up and walked out. That night I opened the spreadsheet. New tab, public appearances and pressure tactics. I logged the time, the location, the silent stare we exchanged. Not out of fear, out of habit. Because I knew now, people like him don't apologize. They try to exhaust you until you break. I wasn't breaking, I was building. And just in case, I scanned every receipt, every file, backed them up to 3 separate drives. One cloud-based, one hidden flash, one locked hard drive in a safe I kept under my bed. Not because I was afraid, because I was done being caught off guard. But they weren't done yet. And the final move? That one. I didn't see coming. The studio smelled like new beginnings. Fresh paint, unfinished wood, a faint trace of turpentine that reminded me of college. I stood in the center of the space, sunlight pouring through the tall windows, and let myself breathe. Everything in here was mine. Not borrowed, not owed, earned. I unpacked my brushes first, lined them up by size, by feel, by memory. I hung the photo Mom gave me near the entrance, not out of sentiment, but as record. A girl with hope in her hands. A version of me they tried to overwrite. When I dipped the first brush into color, my hand didn't shake. I painted through the afternoon. No plan, just motion. Broad strokes. Orange and ash blue, fading into one another like breath. The shadows stretched. My phone buzzed once from the table. I wiped my hands, checked the screen. A message in the family group chat. Unread since the day I left. "Are you coming to dinner? We need to talk. Aspen's hours got cut. We're trying to catch up. Don't forget the mortgage is due." I stared at the message, then typed back. "Rent is due on the 1st. Late fees apply." Blocked the thread. No more bargaining. No more guilt. That evening, Naomi came by with takeout Thai and a bottle of wine. Ezra showed up an hour later with sodas and a printed quarterly report from Vanquish Properties. "You're technically profitable," he said, eyebrows raised. "Didn't think your revenge arc would turn into a real estate business." I laughed. Hard. The kind of laugh that comes from the gut. The kind you forget you're capable of. "They taught me to collect receipts," I said. "I just took it further." Naomi raised her glass. "To bad beginnings with better endings." We clinked our glasses. Later that night, when the dishes were cleared and the house had gone quiet, I opened the drawer beneath the canvas table, filed a copy of the mortgage notice under scent. It was the first document I'd created without fear. I stepped back from the canvas. It wasn't finished, but it didn't need to be. The silence in the studio wasn't empty. It was earned. And as I picked up the brush again, I knew this wasn't revenge. This was return. If you've ever had to rebuild from nothing just to feel safe again, tell me. I'll be reading every word. Like, share, or comment if you know what it's like to finally choose yourself.